So good morning, everyone from Kingston, and good evening or good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to the Arts and Science Exchange Student Course Registration webinar. We're so happy to be here in this virtual space with you. My name is Haley McCormick. I'm the Arts and Science Exchange Coordinator at Queen's University, and my pronouns are she and her. And we're joined today by Janice Tuff, who is the Exchange and Study Abroad Programs Assistant at Queen's University, and her pronouns are also she and her. Janice is here on the screen. She's going to be monitoring the chat as well throughout the presentation, and I will be leading you all through this webinar on selecting your arts and science courses for exchange. To begin our time together, I would like to provide a land acknowledgement. And while some of you may know what a land acknowledgement is, I am aware that some of you may not. This might be a new kind of practice for you. So I do want to provide a bit of context into land acknowledgements, why they're important, and why we always begin our meetings and our gatherings with these. Land acknowledgements in Canada, or Turtle Island, as it's often referred to, are really important ways to initiate a meeting or a gathering. They're a way for the speaker and the folks in that space to recognize the history and ongoing relations of Indigenous folks on Turtle Island with the land. So for me, it's a really important way to also take stock of the work that I am doing on this land, to think about ongoing colonization and the history of this land and all of the Indigenous Canada relations, and think about my own role in that. So I'll provide a land acknowledgement now. Please do note that you'll hear this often, or I hope you will hear this often at events and in your classes at Queen's. And you're very encouraged to find ways to do some research and learn more about the ongoing history, ongoing colonial project on these lands, and also the work being put into truth and reconciliation. So to begin our time together, I would like to acknowledge that Queen's University and Kingston are both situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee nations. To reflect on this is to acknowledge the longer history of this place, one that predates the arrival of the earliest European settlers. It's also to acknowledge the ongoing relationship between the Indigenous caretakers who have been on this land since time immemorial and the relationship to the land. As someone who identifies as a white settler, meaning my ancestors arrived from Europe many generations ago, I recognize that I have a complicated relationship with the land and with Indigenous nations here on Turtle Island. And I know that I have responsibility to continuously learn and understand that privilege, those relationships, the history and current situation, and to continuously engage with that and fulfill a role in taking up truth and reconciliation whenever and wherever I can. And I encourage you all as exchange students who will soon be joining us on campus to think about the ways that you can learn and engage with these really important conversations, and certainly reach out to our team if you'd like any further insights on how to do just that. Today's session, we're going to be covering academics at Queen's, the impact of COVID-19 on course registration particularly, registration instructions, and any questions that you may have. We're hoping that this session will wrap up at 10. We may go a little bit over, but as I noted, we are recording the session, so you will be able to refer back to this if you have any questions. And we're going to do our best to also address any questions you may have today. So I'll ask you to use the chat box to send your questions to Janice Tuff -IPO in the chat, or to send them out to everyone if you're comfortable with that. And we'll pause throughout this webinar to answer questions so that we're referring to the relevant information. If you're feeling like it would be best to have a conversation with a member of our team, please know that you can make a virtual appointment at any time. So beginning in July and all the way through your exchange. And hopefully if we're back on campus, you can even come into the office and speak with someone in person. That would be really lovely. So I'll give you an update on where we are with our return to campus safety planning as well in today's session. Our goal for the session today is to provide you with some foundational knowledge for both course registration, but also to prepare yourself academically for studying in the Faculty of Arts and Science. And a good portion of this webinar is going to talk about the practical steps that you'll be taking over the next week to register or select, I should say, your arts and science courses. Janice, before we go any further, are there any questions off the top that you think we should answer?
We're good right now, Haley. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So we thought it would be helpful to start off with a little bit of context because we realize this is our first time really engaging with some of you virtually in conversation, though we hope you are getting our emails. So we want to introduce you to your exchange team at Queen's. This is the International Programs Office. We are a small but hearty unit, and we're really excited to welcome you to campus. So you see myself and Janice here. We have our manager, Tom Golini, who is on the left side of the photo. Mary Marshall is our study abroad coordinator in the middle, and to the far right, that's Michael Green. He's actually on secondment right now, so you won't be speaking with him, but we're really excited that we're bringing in a new staff member who will likely be on the team by the time you arrive on campus. Our team is your administrative hub or home while you're at Queen's. We're your main point of contact. We are regularly in communication with your home university. So we encourage you to contact us if you have any issues whatsoever, even if it's an issue non-related to exchange, maybe related to another part of your experience. We're very well connected on campus, so we can definitely give you referrals. And we are the main unit through which you will complete your course registration. In terms of your exchange itself, I imagine that you are in the thick of pre-departure preparations, as you should be. This is not a list that you need to follow verbatim. This is more of a list of suggestions, things that we want you to think about because we know you're engaging with this right now. So again, you'll get a copy of this via email within the next 24 hours that you can refer to. I'm not going to go through the list. As I mentioned, this list will be really particular to who you are. It is far from being exhaustive, but there are a couple of really specific Queen's related things on here that are important to note. Particularly, we really encourage you to download the iSent travel app. You will see that to do about halfway down the list. You'll find information about this on the Queen's University International Center website, and we have sent you emails about it. It's a really helpful app that's going to help you move through all of those travel preparations and keep you up to date. So please download that either on your Android or your iPhone, or you can even look at it through a computer because it's going to significantly help with your planning and your prep, which is what we're excited to help with today as well. So we'll move into talking about academics at Queen's, which is why we know you're here and is also an important part of that pre-departure checklist we looked at. We want to provide you at the beginning with an overview of the academic structure at Queen's. So we have 8 different faculties or schools, and you are studying in the Faculty of Arts and Science, which is the yellow box on your screen just on the top left corner there. While you're studying with us as an exchange student, you need to enroll in a majority of arts and science courses. So I'll break that down into numbers in just a little bit. The other faculties at Queen's that you may have access to are the Faculty of Engineering and Applied Sciences, the School of Graduate Studies, and the Smith School of Business. But access is limited. As I mentioned, the majority of your courses must be in arts and science. If you are a graduate student and you believe you meet eligibility requirements or prerequisites for a graduate studies course, you could request that, but you aren't able to do that over the summer during pre-departure. You need to do that when you arrive on campus. So you can reach out to Janice or I and let us know that you're interested in that. We'll give you more information, but it's not something we'll be engaging with today. Really, what most exchange students in arts and science do, if they choose to take a course or two outside of the faculty, which is completely optional, would be to look at courses in engineering or the Smith School of Business. At most, exchange students can take 1 to 2 courses outside of the Faculty of Arts and Science. So please keep that in mind, and also know that both of these faculties will be a part of the course selection process you'll complete over the next week. It's great news that you're studying in the Faculty of Arts and Science, not just for Janice and I, who are really excited to have you with us, but also because you will have access to a wide array of disciplines. You do not need to be based in any particular departments in the Faculty of Arts and Science, which you see posted here on the slide. In fact, you get to choose between these different courses. The real thing to consider is that you need to meet eligibility or prerequisite requirements before you can enroll in a course. But if you have the option to be flexible and take option courses, this means you could take things from the sciences, the languages, social sciences. It's really up to you, based on what your home university is suggesting. So that's super exciting to think about, and we'll give you some sneak peeks of really interesting courses in a few slides. In terms of academics at Queen's, again, we really want to provide you with a solid foundation. So we're next going to take a look at some practical things. So there's going to be a bit of jargon and the like, but hopefully we'll be able to walk through that pretty clearly. When it comes to understanding the academic structure, it's important for you to know that our academic year spans from September to April, and it consists of two 12-week terms. So around the world, term could be interchanged for the word semester or trimester if your school has 3 terms or 3 semesters or trimesters. But at Queen's, we refer to that as a term. So you are going to be joining us either for the full academic year from September to April, or for the fall term, and potentially you could join us for the winter term as well. But likely we're speaking with students today who are joining us for full year or for the fall term. We do have a 12-week term, which means things move very quickly in terms of assignments and learning, but that's really wonderful as well because it means you've got a lot of kind of compressed knowledge and learning going on. Within our 2 12-week terms, students study courses. So when I use the word course, I'm referring to a class, which is the unit of study that a student completes to earn credit. Again, around the world, we know that there's different words that people use instead of course. So at your university, the classes that you take might be referred to as modules or papers. At Queen's, when you hear course, think class. That's what we're referring to. They have 2 lengths at Queen's. So we have full year courses, which span from September to April, and this year it's September 7th to April 30th. And these courses are typically worth 6 units, not always, but typically. Those units are the credits that students are earning in the courses. There's a couple of other notes here on the slide that are important, but I'm actually going to refer to them a little bit later in the webinar because we have some examples that I think will help flesh that out a little bit more. But it's important for you to know that we've got these wonderful full year courses. Typically, those are introductory courses, so first year courses. The majority of courses in the Faculty of Arts and Science are single term courses. So they're either held in the fall term or in the winter term, and those are typically weighted at 3 units. So what does this all mean for you? Well, you need to build your plan, your academic plan for Queen's. So we want you to know that an arts and science student will typically enroll in 15 units per term, and that's going to be 30 units per academic year because we're timesing that by or multiplying that by 2. Exchange students may enroll in 9 units at a minimum or 15 units at a maximum per term. So if we break this down a little further, if you're joining us for the full year, this means you can enroll in a mix of full year and single term courses as long as they culminate or add up to 30 units and they don't go above. Of course, because you could take a little less than that if you choose, that really means your range is anywhere between 24 units and 30 units when you look at both terms, so that's the whole academic year. If you're joining us for the fall term only, you can only enroll in those single term fall term courses, right? You won't be with us, unfortunately, for the winter term. This means you must take between 9 and 15 units per term. Now, I mentioned on the previous slide that courses are typically weighted at 3 units. So let's say you're joining us for the fall term, your home university has told you to take a full course load, and you know that the courses are typically weighted at 3 courses. That means in order to get to 15 units, you're going to be enrolling in most likely 5 courses. And we'll of course help you kind of navigate that as you're selecting your courses, but that's the important math to keep in mind. Now, I've introduced a range, 9 to 15 per term, of units that you can enroll in. And that's because sometimes home universities will tell their students, well, you can choose to enroll in this amount or in this amount. And some are a little more strict and rigid with what students need to enroll in. At the end of the day, it's of the utmost importance that you know what your home university wants you to enroll in so that you're planning properly for your transfer credits. So make sure that you consult with your home university to determine the total number of units that you need to complete while you're studying with us at Queen's. Now, I want to move on in a second and talk a bit about COVID-19 and its impact on course registration. But before I do, Janice, are there any questions about those fundamentals that we should talk about?
Not at this time,
I
Haley.
have a,
Oh, someone is speaking.
I have a question. Yes, it's Claire.
Hi, Claire. Thank you for speaking up. What is your question?
I wonder what is orientation programs?
Yes, thank you. That is a wonderful question. So We sent an email out to all of our fall and full year students last week about the orientation programming. There is ongoing programming right now that's virtual from the Queen's University International Center, and we really encourage you to attend. If you can't attend, just like we're doing in the International Programs Office, the International Center is recording all of their videos and their webinars, and they're posting them on the website. So that's going to cover topics like arriving in Canada during COVID-19, health insurance, some fun things as well, I'm sure. So we encourage you to start that now and to continue following their programming, which you'll see on their website all the way up until you arrive in Kingston. There's also a student-run orientation program that we spoke about in our newsletter as well. And I believe registration has either opened or is soon opening for that. So I encourage you to go back to that newsletter. Check that out. That's a really fun one. And I believe there is a fee associated. The International Programs Office is the third orientation we would encourage you to attend. This orientation is going to be virtual. We'll be sticking to virtual because of COVID-19, and it's going to be happening probably in mid-August. We're still setting those dates, so you'll receive those shortly along with links to register in your email. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, so we'll go back into our course registration overview. Hopefully that kind of layout of the foundations was helpful. Now we want to talk a bit about the impact of COVID-19 on course registration. Unfortunately, like every aspect of our lives, COVID-19 has had an impact on the course registration process. And we laid this out in an email we sent you a few weeks ago, I believe. So our particular concerns about the impact COVID-19 might have on your course registration are: one, that course registration is going to be a little later than we'd like. So you're likely not going to see your final course schedule until the end of August, and classes are beginning in early September. So it doesn't leave you a lot of room, and we recognize you might be traveling during that time. So it's not ideal, but it certainly is still helpful that we've got this pre-term course enrollment that we'll be walking you through. The other potential impact that we're keeping an eye on is limited course availability. So if you are coming to Queen's on Exchange and you have some very particular courses that your home university says you need to enroll in, I would really encourage you to contact us so we can talk a little bit more about your particular situation, just because we cannot guarantee your entry into any particular course. So we want to be as careful as possible, do as much planning with you as we can in advance. And we really want to encourage you to consider some of the elective or option courses that we'll be talking about in a few slides. And that, again, is one of the great benefits of studying in our faculty. There's such a wealth of knowledge and a diversity of topics that you could really engage with. So those are the potential impacts, and our big rule of thumb, always, even before COVID, but especially now, is that flexibility is going to be really, really important. So let's get into course registration and some of the practical components that I was referring to. So over the next couple of minutes, I think maybe 10 to 20 minutes, we really want to dive into what this course registration process will look like for you. A couple of notes that we want to make right from the outset are that you are not enrolling yourselves in courses on Solus. So typically an arts and science degree seeking student at the university will enroll themselves using something called a time ticket on Solus, which is our student center, administrative center. Hopefully some of you have engaged with Solus already, and we'll tell you how to get there if not. As an exchange student, you have a lot of prerequisites from your home university, which is what the departments need to see in order for you to enroll in courses. That proves that you've got that fundamental knowledge to be successful in a course. But those courses from your home university are not present on Solus. And for that reason, you're not able to enroll yourself. The system just won't let you. So you may have received some emails regarding time tickets. These are automated that come from the university. But we encourage you not to engage with those emails from the registrar's office because they just don't apply because of this technical practicality. So you cannot use that time ticket because Solus does not recognize your home university prerequisites, and you therefore don't have to worry about adding courses to your planner or to your shopping cart on Solus. Instead, the International Programs Office team will be collecting your course requests using some secure online forms, and will work with the relevant arts and science departments to register you over the month of August. This means, again, you can ignore any emails you're receiving from other Queen's offices regarding a soulless time ticket. Now, oh, I see Charlotte has their hand raised. So Charlotte, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question, you're very welcome to.
Yes, hello. So my question is, I still didn't add courses to the shopping cart. Is it necessary then? Because if I understand correctly, you just said we didn't have to do it.
Exactly, Charlotte. Yes, thank you for asking that question. That's right. You do not need to add courses to your shopping cart, and you do not need to add courses to your planner. We're going to have another process or another pathway for you to follow, and that's what we're going to dive into in this section. So thanks for not doing that, and thanks for asking that question. That's really great.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So now that hopefully folks are feeling quite clear about that, we're going to turn our attention to talking about course registration considerations, and then we'll dive into those course registration instructions I mentioned. So Janice and I put our heads together and we came up with 3 course registration considerations that we want you to keep in mind while you're searching for courses, while you're looking at all of the great courses we offer. And again, I'll talk about that finding course piece in a couple of slides. So once you're searching for courses, the first consideration we want you to keep in mind is the length of a course. And we've got a great single term course example here, Arts of the Arctic, which is an art history course that we will use as an example. This is a great picture of what a description of a course will typically look like if you're looking at it on a website or on the Arts and Science calendar, which again, I'll tell you about in a moment. So if I'm a student coming into Queen's, I know I need to be paying attention to the length of the course, because if I'm a single term student, I need to make sure I'm avoiding those full year courses. When we look at this course, there's one really clear way to tell what its length is, and that's the number of units it's weighted at, which we discussed a few slides ago. So we see this course is weighted at 3 units. That tells me it's being offered as a single term course. And I'll talk to you about how you figure out which of the terms it's offered in just a couple of slides. Now, if I were joining for a full year and I was quite keen on trying out one of these full year courses, I'd be looking for something different. I would be looking to see if the course was weighted at 6 units. So again, looking for the units is really going to tell you what the length of the course is and let you know if this is an option for you or if it isn't. So that's consideration number 1. Consideration number 2 is the level of a course. Now, this is always really interesting to think about, because we know that you are joining us from many different universities around the world that have many different lengths of degree programs. So for instance, I know several programs in the United Kingdom are 3 years in length, whereas at Queen's, we have 4-year undergraduate programs. And oftentimes exchange students will ask us, should I be enrolling in 2nd-year courses or 3rd-year courses or 4th-year courses? So we're going to break that down. And I see someone's raised their hand. I'll jump through this second consideration, and then I will definitely get to you in a moment. Okay, so course registration consideration number 2 is levels. At Queen's in the Faculty of Arts and Science, there are a couple of different levels of study. So we have the introductory level, those are 100 to 199. 2nd-year courses, 200 to 299, and then we continue to go up through those levels. So 300 is 3rd year is 300 to 399, 4th year 400 to 499, and any course that you see that is at the 500 level or above is a graduate level course. So typically, arts and science undergraduate students aren't going to enroll in those courses. But if you are coming in as a graduate student and you're wanting to consider that, please reach out to us so we can give you more particular guidance. As we note at the bottom of this slide, as you continue to progress up through those levels from 100 to 400, you'll note that there's going to be more prerequisites at those higher level courses. And a prerequisite is kind of like the eligibility requirements for a course. All right, so as we mentioned as well, there may be some restrictions in terms of the 100 introductory level, 3rd year or 4th year level courses. Another tip on understanding these levels at Queen's is that introductory level courses are quite general at Queen's. So again, to contrast with some of our partners in the United Kingdom, we know that in some of those 3-year programs, students are coming in and they're immediately diving into really kind of specific knowledge in their 1st-year courses. At Queen's, we've heard from exchange students that they oftentimes will find the introductory level courses a little bit more general. So that's one thing to consider as well as you are looking through your various course offerings. Now I know someone else had their hand raised. Would you like to unmute and ask a question, Claire?
Yes, because you said for a student who will be the whole year in Queens, he must take a single, no, he must take 4 units and 6 units courses. Is that exact?
Yes, so typically students will complete courses that are either single term, that are usually weighted at 3 units, or if they're looking at a full year course, if we scroll back a little bit to our example here, you'll see that a full year course is weighted at typically at 6 units. So that's one trick that we like to tell you about so you can differentiate between the courses. And there's more tricks to come, so no need to worry there because you'll be able to refer to this recording as you are looking for courses. So I hope that answered your
Okay.
question, Claire.
Yes, but so for a full year courses, we could take both 6 units and 3. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Yes, if you are joining us for a full year, Claire, and anyone else on the call, then you'll be able to look at both full year courses like abnormal psychology and also at single term courses like our example of arts in the Arctic.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Great questions. Thanks, everyone. All right, so we've talked about length and level as 2 main considerations of things to look for while you're researching your courses. The third, oh, and I'm sorry, I had a few more tips here for you on the level. So we talked about these different levels and some important considerations, but we also want to highlight, looking back at our original descriptions and examples, some other ways that you can determine what the level is. So in the numerical code of every course, you will see that 100 level, so 300 level, 200 level, 100 level, and that will tell you, going back to our chart, what kind of level of advancement that course is at. The other way that you'll be able to determine the level of a course is by looking at the prerequisites. So here it's under requirements, and it's saying that a student must be at the 300 level or above to enroll in this course. Now, as I had mentioned previously, it can be tricky if your home university degree program isn't exactly 4 years. If it's maybe 3 or 5, it might be tricky to determine, am I at this level? But I would encourage you to kind of refer back to this visual that we have of that progression through the 4-year program and determine, all right, am I at that more intermediate level? If ever in doubt, you can certainly still request the course because we will be sending it to professors to review along with your transcript, and they can make that final determination based on what they've seen you complete at your home university. So there are some examples of what you can look for to determine the level of a course based on its description. Now let's go to that full year course for a second example. So we see this course is at the 200 level, and they actually have some specific prerequisites. So they say that in order to enroll in this course, a student must have completed Psychology 100, which at Queen's is the Introduction to Psychology course. In this instance, I would encourage you to look for that Psychology 100 course description. Just take a read through and think, okay, have I done something similar to this at my home university? If you answer yes, then most likely you'll meet the prerequisites for the course, and we would encourage you to consider it. You'll also note on this example, there's a little note that says equivalent to Psych 235, and that's referring to the course itself. That's specific to students who are progressing through a degree plan. So you don't need to worry if you see a note like that, but of course, if always in doubt, reach out to our team for more information. The final consideration that we have for you in terms of course registration and availability is itself availability. So we really want you to think of or to know that we will do all that we can to enroll you in the courses you'd like to, and every year we are successful in enrolling Queen's Arts and Science exchange students in the courses they have interest in, but of course we aren't able to guarantee every student's access to all courses. So availability is going to be determined by, if there is a professor teaching that or if they're on secondment. and as well the prerequisites. So kind of going back to the level that you're meeting those. Those are the key determinations for whether or not you can enroll in a course. Okay, so Janice, are there any other questions coming through the chat that we want to answer in terms of those considerations when students are looking at courses?
No, not at this time.
Great. Okay, we're going to transition now into talking about those practical details that we had mentioned earlier. So what do you need to do then to register in your courses? Because we know you're not registering on Solus. I just saw a hand pop up. Charlotte, do you have a question you want to ask?
Yes, yes, quick question. So I was wondering, where can we find if the course is offered in fall or in winter? Is it written next to the course on the course registration form, or?
That is a wonderful question, and that's what we're going to answer in this part of the webinar. So
Great.
yeah, that's perfect. So we'll dive into that right now. All right, so here are a couple of basic instructions that you can follow for course registration. So number one, we want you to determine what Queen's courses you want to enroll in. Then you will research the Queen's course offerings using some of the tips we provided. Then you will list the courses somewhere on your phone, on a computer, in a notebook that you want to register in. Then you will submit your course selection forms to our team online on your computer. And then you'll monitor your Queen's email for updates and your Solus account. Now we're going to take each of these steps and we're going to break them down a little bit further. So number one, let's determine what courses you're going to enroll in. As I mentioned, we have an array of disciplines within the faculty. So we've listed a few key questions here that you should ask yourself when you're thinking about course enrollment. Number one, what do you need to transfer back to your home university? What are they thinking you're going to take or needing you to take? Number two, how many credits do you need to complete? Remember, you can enroll in between 9 units and 15 units per term, but what does your home university require? Number three, are there courses that we offer which could build on or create new interests for you while you're here? So we would really encourage you to follow your interests as well as what your home university is requiring if you have room. And then of course, if you do have that room, would you want to take some elective courses or option courses? So if you study biology at your home university, might you consider taking perhaps a gender studies course while you're studying with us? And in the image on the screen, you see some really interesting courses that we're quite fond of in the International Programs Office and are usually very popular amongst our incoming exchange students. So we would very much encourage you to consider maybe enrolling in a course like Global Development Studies 220, which is Introduction to Indigenous Studies, or perhaps the Languages, Literatures, and Cultures Introduction to Cultures course, which is really cool and actually has a free certificate that you earn alongside it. So we'll continue to give you some tips on what are some really great courses if you do have room to take electives or options. But the very first thing you need to do is that reflection piece to determine what your goals are for course registration. Once you have an idea, you can begin researching those course offerings, again, using the tips we just referred to. There are 3 ways that you can do this. The first is by visiting the academic calendar for the Faculty of Arts and Science, which is completely digitized, it's all online, and that's where we got the descriptions from that you saw earlier in the presentation. The second way is by visiting department websites. Some departments still have courses up from the previous academic year, but many are starting to upload their current 2021-22 course offerings. And the third and final way is visiting Solus, which again is the Student Administrative Center. It's an online space where you will find information about your academics and your finances. This is the definitive place where you will find the timetable and the actual course offerings. So Charlotte, you asked, how do we know if a single term course is offered in fall or winter? You will know possibly by the department website, but most definitely by Solus. Now the academic calendar that I listed first, which is listed first on the screen, will show you all of the courses we have offered in the faculty over the last 5 years, but it doesn't guarantee what course is being offered. The department website is a really great place to look for course descriptions. They sometimes have course syllabi, but they may not be fully updated yet because there are 27 departments. They all have many things going on. So that might be a work in progress still. The definitive place where you will find those course offerings and again be able to note the term that they're listed in is Solus, and that will be published on Solus tomorrow. So that timetable will be published on Solus tomorrow. And that's when we're going to send out the recording and more details on instructions for how you access it. Now, out of curiosity, has anyone here accessed Solus already? We had sent some instructions previously in one of our emails. If you have, definitely stick a note in the chat and let Janice know. That's always really interesting for us. If you haven't, it's not anything that you need to worry about. We are going to walk you through how to access Solus right now. So as mentioned, Solus is a really important place for you to go and check out your academics and your finances. We would encourage you to access it by going first to the Queen's University webpage. You can just pull up the general webpage and look for that burgundy search and sign in button. Click that and you're going to see a little pop out that looks like this. So we have an image on the screen of a drop down menu that's popped up. And we would encourage you to click My Queen's U, and that is the way that you're going to access Solus. When you click My Queen's U, it's going to bring up a website that looks like this. And you want to click Solus, the top button on the left corner of the page to log in. You'll then be brought to a sign-on page that looks like this, where you'll enter your net ID and your password. So your net ID is different from your student number. Your student number is an 8-digit number. Your net ID is a combination of letters and numbers. Usually they're your initials. So that's the part that you'll enter in to the sign-on page along with the password that you created when you activated it. You will then be brought to a couple of pages that look like this. Now, Solus was recently updated, so it might look a little bit fancier than this, I hope. Also, as staff people, I think we have a different view of Solus than you will have as a student. So your Solus might look slightly different from this, but the core functionality should be the same. So when you log onto Solus, look for a tab on your menu that says Academics, and then click on the Search for Classes or Class Search menu option. And it's going to bring up a page that looks kind of like the picture on the left. Now we've identified using arrows what search terms you will need to enter to find courses for the time you'll be at Queen's. So on the screen, we've used winter 2021 because there are no set courses for 2021-22 on Solus yet. Those are being published tomorrow. So for this example, we used the last semester or the last term. We threw in biochemistry, which I actually know nothing about. I studied politics, but always seems really interesting to me and my brother loves it. So we use that as an example. And then we made sure that the remaining search fields said undergraduate for course career and main for campus, because you will be studying on the main campus. We've also let you know that you can click or unclick this button down below your search terms. The button is for show open classes only. So if you click it, you're only going to see courses that are, or classes that are available. But if you leave it unclicked, it will show you classes that are full. And I'll let you know how you'll differentiate between those in just a moment. Now I'm going to direct you over to the next picture on the screen, which is an image of our search results. So we threw these search terms into Solus, and this is what was produced. The first thing I always do when I'm looking for courses on Solus is I make sure that I've put the right term in, because Solus will list all of the terms that have previously been held and that will be held in the future. So you could go back into the 90s and you could go forward into maybe even the 2030s, I'm not sure. So I always check to make sure that I'm in the right term. Again, for our example, we've used winter 2021, but the search terms you will be using are fall 2021 and winter 2022, depending on if you're with us for fall term or full year. The next thing I do is take a look at all of the great courses that have been brought up. So let's use the first one here. It's Biochemistry 310B, General Biochemistry. Let's use this as an example. There's a couple of things right off the bat that I can learn from looking at this course description. Number one, we've just circled the B on this picture. The B is telling me that this course is full year. So as I mentioned way back earlier in the presentation, there are annotations, A and B, on full year courses. So not only do you see the numerical code, but you also see either an A in the fall term or a B in the winter term for those full year courses. If this course did not have a B, then I would know it was a single term course. But because there's a B and because it's offered in the winter term, Solus is telling me this is the second part of a full year course. If I was a fall exchange student, I would not be able to take this course. So that's the first thing that I've learned here. What else can we learn? Okay, under the section column, I note that there are a couple of short forms here that are important. So the first one says LEC, L-E-C, and that means lecture. So right off the bat, I know that general biochemistry has a lecture component. Below that, I see multiple labs, short forms of the word laboratory lab. This tells me that there's also a practical component to the course. So along with going to a lecture, I will also be attending a lab if I enroll in this course. I also learn a little bit about who's teaching the course. So I can see the professor's name under instructor. And I can even maybe do a Google search or look on the Queen's website to figure out who this prof is, what they're specializing in, and that might tell me a little bit more about what I could glean from the course. There's even more to learn though. So there's days and times that are listed and there's meeting dates. This is the part that's going to be really important to look for tomorrow as well, especially if you're wanting to perhaps plan your weekly schedule. So you maybe have a day off or you have days that aren't so heavy. You should be able to access this information in advance. As well, you will be able to know how full a course is. So what I've just highlighted here are the 3 different statuses of a course. And you'll see that on the top above that biochemistry course description. So there's 3 symbols that you can look for when searching for courses. One is for the status open. This means that the course is available. It's open, there's space, there's seats, and that is a green circle. If you see a blue square, that means that the course has been closed, possibly by the department or possibly because it's full. The final symbol that you can look for is a yellow triangle that indicates there's currently a wait list for the course. As an exchange student, you can enroll, you can join a wait list for a course if you're really interested in taking it, but you won't be able to join a wait list until you arrive on campus during a period called open enrollment. That'll happen in early September, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a short while. But these are the core things you want to look for. And again, really you're looking for courses that are open, but even if a course is full, you can still signal to us that you're interested in it. I'll tell you where you can signal that to us in a moment. The final thing I want to show you is the class numbers. So you'll note that there's distinct numbers for each component of the class. If you want to take a particular lab, or if you're looking at a social sciences or humanities course, like art history, for instance, and there's a seminar or a tutorial, which are other components that you might take. So a seminar would be a small room or a small group of students coming together once a week to engage in conversation, be graded on participation. A tutorial is very similar, whereas a lab is that work in a science in a lab. Hello, everyone. I'm terribly sorry about that. Janice knows all too well that typically once a meeting or once a session, I'm usually losing my Wi-Fi connection. So thank you so much for your patience while we get back up and running. I hear that the recording is back on as well. Hopefully that gave you an extra couple of seconds just to digest everything So we're gonna quickly zoom through all of my highlights and wrap up on that class selection bit. As I was saying, hopefully, I think that's where we wrapped. This is really important if there's a particular laboratory component, seminar component, tutorial component that you're interested in. And the reason that you might be interested in a particular component is typically because of the time and the day it's offered. So if you're getting into that level of detail when you're selecting your courses, know that you will be able to signal that to us. We'll try to note that as best we can when we're enrolling you in courses. The third step that you're going to be taking in this course registration process is making a list. If you're old-fashioned like me, you might want to do that in your notebook. If you're a little more high-tech, you can use your mobile phone or your computer, but keep a list of the courses you're interested in somewhere. This is going to be particularly helpful if you attend a course in the first week of classes and you realize you don't like it and you want to make a change, because we do have a period of open enrollment where you can make a change. But it's also just really helpful in case perhaps the courses you pick are super popular and we aren't able to enroll you because there's not enough space. Then we can go back with you to your list, your handy list, and look for another course. After you've done these steps, you've done your reflection, you've used the tools that we've outlined, you've sorted through all the courses, you've made your list, then you're going to come to the course registration bit. So we call this registration, but again, just to emphasize, that's not happening on Solus. That is happening through our course selection forms. Tomorrow, or possibly later today, we're going to email you a package. It's a PDF that will have a list of all of the departments. It's the list that you see on the left side of the screen, with both departments and with course codes. This is going to be a list that will link you, if you click on each individual department, to the various course selection forms that we have built online for each of the departments. So if you're interested in a biology course, you will navigate yourself once you've made your list over to our PDF package. You'll click that link that says biology and it will bring you onto a page that looks very much like the picture you see on the right-hand side of the screen. It will take you less than 5 minutes to probably less than 2 minutes actually to complete one of these online forms. You'll give us your student information and you'll also tell us as you move through the form which courses you want to enroll in. So if you're joining us and you are only taking courses in one subject, you're going to only open one of these forms. But if you're joining us and you want to take advantage of all of the amazing courses we have, you're likely going to be opening a couple of these forms. And that's another reason why that list can be really helpful. Now we know that there's some courses that are probably going to be more important to you than others. There is a notes section or a comment section on each of these forms where you can tell us that information, okay? Because we want to try to take that into consideration. So please know that that's possible. Once we receive those course selection forms from you, they are due on August 2nd. We will work internally to make sure everything you selected makes sense, that we have those courses, they are indeed being offered, and then we will send them along with your home university transcript to the relevant professors in the relevant departments. They're going to look at your transcript and at what you selected, and they're going to say yes or no, that you meet the prerequisites or you don't meet the prerequisites. As I mentioned previously, if you're in doubt about whether you meet the prerequisites, still list the course. The professor will make that final decision. And even if you go to that first class and you think, oh, no, this isn't for me, you'll have an opportunity to drop it and add another course. So that's what we would encourage. Now, to walk you through this timeline very quickly, tomorrow is July 23rd. That's when those course offerings are going to be released on the Solus timetable. That's also the day that we're going to send you this video recording and the package and all of the instructions that you need. Over the next week, by August 2nd, you're going to do all of those steps we talked about: reflection, searching, and filling in those forms. And then that first week of August, Janice and I will be super busy making sure everything maps out. We'll work with the departments, and you'll be preparing to come and join us physically on campus. By August 30th, we're going to hit a section of course registration called open enrollment. Your home university might have something like this. This is a period of adding and dropping courses, so all Queen's students can do this. If you attend a course in that first week of classes begin on September 7th, I believe, and you think, oh, no, I don't like this, that's a reason you might choose to add or drop a course. Perhaps if you get to the end of August and you're not in all of the courses that you wanted because some of those courses were full, open enrollment, it's also the period where we will work with you to help you complete your course schedule. So know that the final day that you can add or drop a course for the fall term only will be September 20th. So we're going to start this tomorrow and we're not really going to finish it until September 20th. You have a huge window of time to register for courses, and Janice and I and our team will be with you every step of the way. So we're just wrapping, we're at the end of the presentation. I'm going to kind of close this out, and then I see a few folks with hands up, and we've got a couple of minutes yet, which is wonderful. So we'll take a couple of questions, but I'm just going to wrap up with a couple of key reminders. What happens next? We want you to mark these very important course registration dates down in your diary, your scheduler, your agenda. We want you to revisit that pre-departure checklist that we've put together for you. Again, that checklist is not exhaustive, but it's going to give you some indication of important things to consider and look at if you haven't already. As always, continue to monitor your Queen's email account, and please note that there are many folks at the university who might not recognize your personal or your home university account. So we really want you to start using that Queen's email account very often. Of course, attend the International Center webinars that are ongoing. They're wonderful. They're covering topics from health insurance to arriving in Canada, to acclimatizing yourself to life in Kingston. So really, really great. Watch for our International Programs Office webinars, which will be released next week, the registration links for those. Contact our team if you have any advising questions or you want to just engage in further conversation. And of course, follow us on socials. We have to do a shameless plug. We'd really love to see you in those spaces as well. So we're at Queen's U IPO on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All right, so I'm going to leave the recording happening for another moment. If you have a question that you think others would benefit from and you'd like to ask it while we're still recording, then please ask that question now. If you don't want to, I will turn the recording off, and then we can ask some questions if you'd rather keep them more for this virtual space. So first, let's take any questions that you're okay with being in the recording. And if you sent a message to Janice with a question, please do a quick follow-up and let her know if you'd like that to be in the recording or if you'd like us to wait. While we wait for that, I see Charlotte and Kate, you both have your hands up. Kate, would you like to speak first?
Hi, thank you. I think it's a very similar question to what Charlotte put in the chat, actually, but it was whether courses are a first come, first served basis, because you said some courses are closed because they're full, but how do they get full in that sense, and when can we access them?
Absolutely. That is a great question, Kate and Charlotte as well. So yes, registration does happen, broadly speaking, across the university on a first come, first served basis. So course registration begins happening in early to mid-August for degree seeking students. I don't have that exact date in front of me, but we are going to be timing the requests that will go from you to the department for about the same time. So it depends really on when departments are looking at those requests. Most of our departments, many of our departments look very quickly. They get back to us very quickly and we're able to get you into courses. But some departments take a little bit more time. If that's the case, then there may be students registering themselves on Solus before we receive those decisions. And that might be an example of when a course could become full and either becomes closed or there is a wait list. So hopefully that helps answer your question.
So, sorry, just to clarify, so you submit you submit all the requests and then look at them through the request based on timing?
Yes.
Okay, so you said it happens, sorry, in late August, but then our registration forms are due the 2nd of August.
Yes, so course registration begins for degree seeking students in I think it's early to mid-August. I don't have the date exactly on me. So that means that those time tickets I referred to, which you all can ignore, that is the process through which degree seeking students are enrolling. And that's happening in about the middle of the month. So your process is happening at the same time as degree seeking students process. But this is why potentially some courses can fill up. Also, I should note there are some courses that are specialty courses that are only available to students in particular degree programs. So you may see those listed on Solus. There's not very many, but some of those are closed by departments because they are requirements for students to graduate, and they're therefore not available to students who are outside of that degree program. So that could mean either outside of a degree program like kinesiology, so an art history degree seeking student, or it could mean an exchange student. So those are some of the kind of reasons or rationale why you might see that close sign. But again, the example that I gave you was showing courses that were offered last year. So that's why you were seeing the blue square as well, because we were looking at something from many months ago. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more context into that particular question.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem, Kate. And Charlotte, you have your hand up as well. Are you comfortable with your question being on the recording?
Yeah, sure. If I can follow on that question, I think I'm a bit confused still. So the course registration starts tomorrow, right? So as of tomorrow, it will be on a first come, first serve basis, right? Or is it mid-August, as you said? That's my question. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Charlotte. That's really helpful clarification. Sorry, Kate, I don't think I was fully getting what you were asking. So wonderful question. The timetable will become public tomorrow, but course registration will not begin until mid-August for degree seeking students. So everyone gets to look and see what courses are offered. They have some time to make their plans, to make their schedule. And we especially want to account for the fact that many students are working over the summer, many students are traveling, hopefully more so over the summer now. And this is why there's also this week or so before, or a couple of weeks before students actually start to enroll. So hopefully that clarifies things and is a little calming as well.
Yeah, right. I get it now. And so I guess the date will be announced soon enough when the course registration will begin.
That date is already public. The reason I don't have it is because the students in our office that we work with don't participate in that timeline. You have your own unique timeline. So the date for other degree seeking students really isn't anything that you need to worry about. But that is public, that is on Arts and Science website. What's really important for you all to remember is to abide by that timeline and those dates that we've given you. And remember that by August 2nd, you should have your course selections into our team. Afterwards, there's no immediate action that you have to take unless you get an email from our team, which is why we're saying monitor your email account. So really for you, everything should be kind of complete in terms of your course registration and course selection to-dos or checklist by August 2nd. And then you just keep monitoring your email in case we run into any hiccups or we have any questions for you about your courses.
But then we will still have to register afterwards for the courses we selected?
No, I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. So when you submit your course selections through to our office, we will work directly with the relevant departments on your behalf to see if you're eligible for entry. And if you are, we will be enrolling you and registering you in those courses. So there's no registration that you need to worry about.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I just don't quite get the first come, first serve basis. When does it happen? Like, I guess then it's tomorrow. If yeah, I guess the next week will determine our course registration. So I guess as of tomorrow, we should be ready to select our courses if afterwards we don't have to register for any courses anymore.
So yeah, I know it's a great thing to be really, really clear on. So to walk us through this timeline again, on July 23rd, the course offerings and times are going to be released on Solus. So you will go onto Solus over the course of the next week and you'll make those lists of courses, like we said. And then also tomorrow, we will be sending you the forms where you will tell us what courses you want. By August 2nd, you need to complete those forms and send them into our office. Once we receive those forms, behind the scenes, that's why this isn't on our timeline here, behind the scenes, Janice and I and our team will work with the relevant departments who will review your transcript and the courses you've selected, and they will let us know if you have permission to enroll in the course. And then our team will be enrolling you in the course over the course of August. So by late August, that's when you will see your course schedule be mostly complete or entirely complete on your Solus account. So there's no registration that you need to have worry about. The first come, first serve is true. That is true for course registration, but the date that I referred to for mid-August is specific only to degree seeking arts and science students. So that is not a date that you need to worry about, and trying to register yourself on Solus is not something that you need to worry about. The action items that you have for course registration are again between July 23rd and August 2nd.
All right, thank you.
Does that help clarify things, I hope?
Yes, sure.
Okay, reach out if you have any more questions or concerns. Okay, there's a couple more hands up, so we will come to you in a moment. Janice, I just want to check in to ask if there's any questions in the chat that we wanted to answer as well.
Yes, Haley, a couple. So one, do we need to search for courses for winter term now?
Great question. If you are a full year student, then yes, please do search for and request courses in the winter term now.
Second question, what does combined section class mean?
Combined, that's a great question. So I think that question is referring to the example we looked at. So this would be an example of a combined section class, and that means that there's multiple components to that class. So there's for general biochemistry, there is a lecture, and there is also a lab. There are some classes that might only be a lecture, or they might only be a lab, and they wouldn't have kind of combined sections. Janice, I'm going to go over to some of the folks who have their hands up now, and then I'll come back to you if there's any more
Okay.
questions in the
Yes.
chat to keep both channels moving. Okay, so I think Ungun, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I think you had your hand up next. Would you like to speak on the recording?
Yeah, sure. So I have a question about what Charlotte had a question about. So so here's an example. Let's say that I send you my requests tomorrow for course selection, right? And then let's say that another person sends it by August 2nd. I think the question was, will you have a preference over me because I sent it to you earlier, or is that how it's working?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that perspective on the question. Much appreciated. So no, within that week-long timeline of July 23rd to August 2nd, there won't be a first come, first serve. So within our group of incoming exchange students, it's not first come, first serve. After August 2nd, our team, Janice and I, will be internally reviewing all of your course requests. So we'll try to review in advance as they're coming in, but there's a lot happening, so we may not be able to do that all the time. But after August 2nd until August 6th, we're going to be reviewing your courses in our office. Then we will send them to departments. So between July 23rd and August 2nd, no, it's okay if you wanted to wait and submit it on August 1st or July 30th. That's completely okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Great question. Okay, Girl, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I know you also have your hand up.
Hello. As I understood, as a exchange student in arts and science faculty, I can apply and enroll for courses which offered by the other faculties. Did I understand correctly?
Yes, you did. Absolutely. But there is a limit. Did you have a particular question, or would you like me to revisit that?
Yeah, I remember it. Can I enroll for them tomorrow?
You will be able to start searching tomorrow. Again, you won't have to submit your course selections until August 2nd, but anytime between July 23rd and August 2nd is great. So as mentioned, the Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science and the Smith School of Business will be open to you if you meet prerequisites and there's available space. But as an arts and science student, you are limited to only enrolling in 1 to 2 courses from these faculties, engineering and Smith School of Business. So maximum of 2 courses. But you certainly can do that. And those are included in the link that we sent you to the course selection forms that we mentioned at the end of the session. I can go back to those if you're still looking at the screen here. So hopefully that helps answer your question. You can certainly look, but you are limited just to 2 courses at maximum. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand.
Perfect. All right. And Janice, back to you for some more questions from the chat.
Sure. As an exchange student, are you allowed to attend lab course, or are there too many prerequisites?
It's going to depend. That's a great question on the prerequisite front. So it's really important when we think back to those course descriptions that you take a look at what the prerequisites are for a course. So it's hard to answer that with a yes or a no, because it's very dependent on what course you're talking about. If you're in doubt about whether you meet prerequisites or what you should consider while you look at prerequisites, you can certainly reach out to us, or you can revisit that section of this presentation. Hopefully that helps.
Another question, Haley. Do we need Adobe Reader to open the form?
Great question. No, you do not need Adobe Reader. This is a form on your web browser.
And is there an email address we can use if we have further questions?
Absolutely, there is. So I will put this in the chat now. It's ipo@queensu.ca, and our whole team monitors this. So you'll certainly hear from us. We are having a few folks away on holidays over the next couple of weeks. And as mentioned, we are a bit short-staffed at the moment. So we thank you in advance for your patience if it does take us a day or two to get back to you.
And one more question, Haley. Is it possible to follow only a specific part of a combination course?
Wonderful question. Thank you for that question. We get this every year. No, it is not possible to follow only one part. So if you enroll in a course, you need to complete all sections of the course. If that's the last question, then I think I know we're a little bit over. You certainly don't have to hang around if you need to be somewhere. We'll continue recording. But I want to just quickly expand on what I was referring to with those course sections. So most courses will have a lecture, and a lecture section is when you go into an auditorium and your professor speaks for anywhere from 1 to 3 hours with a break about the course and the material. And you're usually asked to do your readings in advance. And there could be anywhere from 20 to 400 students in a lecture of that size. Now, I mentioned as well, we're still working on this return to campus safety planning. As we have more information, we will be sending that to you, and we will also be talking about that in our August webinar. So you'll get either a recording or hopefully you can join us for that session. That's the example of the lecture, but there are other components to courses as well. So a lab component is typically held in a laboratory where you're doing experiments, you're writing reports, you might be working independently or in a group. A second subcomponent to a course would be a tutorial. That's where you're typically with a teaching assistant, sometimes with a professor, in a much smaller size of class than you would find a lecture, so maybe 20 to 25 students. And in a tutorial, you would be going over the contents that you learned in lecture that week. So the focus or the subject for that week, and it would be kind of practical. So you might be having conversations, you might be doing activities. And then the third most common kind of sub-component, so that might part of a class that might accompany a lecture, is a seminar. These are commonly in the social sciences or the humanities, so something like political science or history or English. And this is when you meet, usually also on a weekly basis, like the lab and like the tutorial, with a teaching assistant or your professor and a small group of about 20 to 25 students, and you're really engaging in conversation. So you're having discussion, debate, dialogue about what you've been learning that week in the lecture. And in seminars, you may be asked to do a presentation or to potentially lead conversation one week. Those types of details will be very dependent on the professor of the course, and you will get all of those details in the first week of classes. That's when you'll receive your course syllabi, usually not in advance. And you'll be able to fully understand, how much am I expected to read each week? What are the assignments? All of those details will come for those courses in your first week of classes. We're going to ask a professor to speak with you also before classes begin in August. So this will be one of those webinars I spoke about for the International Programs Office. And that professor is going to kind of walk you through in more detail, what is a seminar? What are the online components to a course? So where do I go if I'm submitting an assignment? All of those details are forthcoming. We will be communicating that to you before classes in August. So I kind of spiraled there, but hopefully that information is a bit helpful for you.
Couple more questions, Haley. First, will we know whether courses will be online or in class due to COVID?
Great question. These are all wonderful. So at the current time, the plan for Queen's University is to be back in person for classes. So there are sometimes online courses. This was even before COVID that exchange students would ask to take, maybe one along with the remainder of their classes being in person. So if you find a course that's online, you can certainly list it. We'll confirm that that's available to you. And like I mentioned, work with the departments to enroll you if you're eligible. But the majority of classes will be in person.
And the second question, what is the difference between QUIC and the Queen's International Programs Office?
That's such a great question, Janice. I've been talking so much. Would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, so I'm going to look at it as the IPO is your home away from home, academic wise, and the Queen's University International Center looks after the study permits, the visa, events, housing. Haley, I don't know if I'm missing anything else, but yes, little slight difference, but both great offices.
Both great offices, I concur, and I would encourage you to become familiar with both. So again, you can reach out to either. We work very closely with them, so if it's something they handle, they can handle it, or if it's something we handle, they would flip us back, and vice versa. But certainly, as Janice said, we are your home away from home, so we are your central administrative office. So never, ever, if in doubt, hesitate to come and talk with us.
And that's it on chat for now, Haley.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you for also being so generous and letting your questions be on that recording. I think that's going to help many other students who couldn't make it today. So I will say thank you and stop the recording.